Hi everyone, I'm McDices, and this is going to be a new Nightcry category called A Face Floating on Waves. This is essentially Monica's any % category and is her fastest ending. It's a new category that I decided to make because there's really not many categories barring Rooney's 2 survivors. Every character in the game has their own ending, and some will have more than one. It gets kind of weird later on, but for right now, this will be Monica's. The time begins on New Game and ends on the end of Monica's session. So, 3, 2, 1, let's go. As well, I've included chat up here for if there's any questions, we can get to that, and I can also explain things if there's any context. People are being very polite, which is good. So, the chapter begins with Monica, and you have to originally talk to this fellow here, whose name is Eric. Eric is mandatory to talk to, because if you don't talk to him, you can't actually leave. Now, as a game, Nightcry is mostly going to be a point-and-click game, if you're already aware. If not, it is a game made in 2016 that was supposed to be a spiritual successor to Clock Tower. However, it's kind of cheesy, and in a way pretty fun. Now, are there any major skips? During Monica's chapter, not really. Most of the run's rather straightforward. However, there is a thing that you can do in the middle of the run that is sort of a skip. Most of this game's tech, though, in Monica's chapter, will be most on routing. So, in the early game, you have to talk to Vigo, and then you're going to have to talk to this thing, the glass eye, I guess, beaker. And then you talk to Vigo again. This gives you the prompt to use the lighter, or the matches, I should say, and then you can actually get the item, and it teaches you about items. And Pixie Time, great question. There are major differences between this and 2 survivors. Normally in 2 survivors, you want to be able to get into the next chapters of the game, like Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. I should have turned that off, but that's fine. Normally, you would have to, like, for example, kill Jessica. You would have to make a Facebook post. This is going to be the fastest, and we only want to be in Monica's chapter. We don't want to end up in any other chapters, for good reason. As well, the thing with these hallways is you have to keep clicking as you go, so you have to make sure you're good on that. Some new tech I kind of discovered here is that if you talk to Jessica twice instead of talking to Kelly and then Jessica, it'll be more consistent on getting down there. After talking to those two, you're now able to go down the elevator and you can meet up with Dante, also known as Harry. His actual name is Harry, but he looks like Budget Dante, which I think is hilarious. This will likely be a free world record because this is my first actual run of the category, but it depends. And so I'll get to that one afterward. I mainly want to focus on the hardcore speedrunning tech for what we have here. However, the answer is probably the game Devotion, just as a quick one. Anyway, we're going to be getting the infamous soda death here, and this also is more important because it will spawn the Scissorwalker. And you want the Scissorwalker to spawn because this will start throwing the events of the game in action. You actually can't leave this area until you get the Scissorwalker. It's supposed to be the tutorial based on running. So this game has 2 modes, which is both essentially fight or flight, or exploration and panic. In panic mode, you can only run away and try to avoid the Scissorwalker. You want to quickly run around this bend to get back to the elevators because there's going to be a fire extinguisher. This is important because not only do you get away from the Scissorwalker, you also get to this dead body right here. This dead body has the cell phone you need in order to get your way through. And not Pepsi Man would, but Pepsi Walker. Because the Scissorwalker is actually a chick, believe it or not. But it is hilarious to watch the Pepsi Walker chase Monica here. Because she's walking like she kind of went to the bathroom and has embraced her power. Anyway, as we continue moving forward, we need to get the phone charged. Normally at this point in the game, you'd be using the phone to both go into the room on the right to get the phone call from Jessica to prompt her later on, and also in order to get the SNS post that you'll have to do later as well. However, we don't want to make that SNS post, but we do need the phone charged for later because I'm going to need to get a phone call in order to get a fuse to make it to the higher floors. Thank you for the follow. Now that we have the smartphone, we're going to entirely ignore it. It is required for a single phone call, which will give us a prompt for later. Right now is going to be probably everyone's favorite cutscene in this game, and also a big skip. However, for fun reasons, I'll be showing off my gal, Aiko Tanimoto, and her cat. They're adorable. But you don't need to post on Facebook. In fact, posting on Facebook would lose you the run, so don't do it. Anyway, the glitch, the way I've been able to do it, is if you mash the spacebar and the buttons at the same time, really quickly on both, you can kind of get it consistently. I didn't get this time, but the game sort of just decides to give it to you. That's weird tech.
I'm sorry.
But keep in mind, this game is not the best game. And my night's going well, FLCL. We're doing some marathon commentary right now, which is kind of explaining the entirety of this new category, which is dubbed A Face Floating on Waves. I also forgot to split again, which is fine. However, we're about to split once again once we watch this cart murder this man. The panic event here, you just have to click it a certain amount of times, which, once that circle turns blue, you're all good to go. Really enough, you can skip this cutscene from this angle, but if you go the other way, you can. It's not faster because you have to go all the way around, but it is an interesting thing that exists for some reason. Anyway, killing this man is mandatory because he has a card key that we're going to need for later. Thank you, Now boys. He is much appreciated, and he did get bottle serviced. Now that we have the key card, we're going to have to get the mission to get the fuse. The way you do that is, one, having the phone. By having the phone, we have a man named John Thompson's phone. That is the husband, I think, of Angie something. I don't remember. I think Angie Brown is her name. This is also a variant of the glitch you can do, where you can get the fuse prompt early ending. It's slightly faster, but it's not easy to do. I just mashed spacebar there. Anyway, with the phone, I just mashed right here, and then you get the phone call from Angie. And now we have the mission to get the fuse. The answer normally will be found in SNS, and the way you're supposed to figure it out is it is his birthday. You can call Angie for hints. However, the answer will always be the same. It's 0314, also known as Pi Day. You want to avoid mashing buttons during this, because if you softlog here, your entire run would be dead. You actually have to restart the entire game. Which, if you're doing like a marathon showcasing this, you can just restart from a checkpoint, which is kind of nice. But you want to be very careful not to mash buttons there. And there we go, we now have the fuse. And this game was supposed to be, but then they upscaled it to PC. How's it going, Paptops? Good to see you. Now that we have the fuse, we can now go back to the elevator. And with that, with both the fuse and the key card, we can now go up. As well, I recommend turning on the flashlight. If you forget to do it later, you might accidentally die. We're going to be getting a puzzle that requires the lights. It's a bit of an odd one, and it doesn't even make all that much sense, all things considered. But what's going to happen is there's going to be an old woman in the elevator, and you want to make sure that she's not going to kill you. The way you do that is by just slamming your fist on all the buttons. Monica can only learn how to do that if you have the light on, which you'll see momentarily. So now the elevator is activated, we run inside and we hit the button, and then we'll be hitting a new cutscene. Right here. You just push this button with the light on, and then you're good to go. And that was pretty good so far. So the biggest routing difference is going to be right here on this final split. Normally what you would have to do is get the cafe keys, and then also start the Scissorwalker spawn so you can kill Jessica so you can make later chapters. However, I'm not going into later chapters, so Jessica won't be actually needed here. So that being said, I can just go straight to the room and ignore the Scissorwalker encounter entirely. However, there's one minor difference in this in terms of movement which makes it kind of awkward, and that's going to be with a crate. So, there's a crate in this game that is kind of hard to bypass, and I just want to mention it is awkward. It's this one. Because I'll have to get to the other side. Normally, you don't worry about that because the crate won't be there when you're running away from Scissorwalker. However, we're not going to be running away from Scissorwalker because we're not starting the event. We got the cafe key, and now we can fully run down here. What I normally do is I kind of walk forward, and then I click on the opposite side of it, kind of that wall. You have to be careful because if you click in the exact wrong area, Monica might double back. But now that we have the brochure, we can now continue forward. The last things you want to do is, one, you may have noticed I've kept on the light the entire time. I have the light on the entire time because you can turn it off, however, you'll need it back on by the end of this. If you don't have on the light, you will die going into the next door. On the upper floor, there is a weird puzzle, also Camden, nice. Very nice. There is a weird puzzle, and that puzzle requires you to have the light on. If you don't have the light on, it's an instant death, and you'll probably lose your run if you're on world record pace. So make sure you do this. Use the keys, and then you open it with the light. Once you have the light on, you're all good to go, and then that's a run. The run ends once you go through this door, which will be right over here. That angle's a bit awkward, but then once you're here, you're good to go. And we have an 8:49, which is pretty good. Not bad of a run, and I hope you all enjoyed it. You'll know you have a face floating on waves when this happens. Also, yes, world record. Thank you, Most.
Wait, no. Oh.
And now Monica is dead. So Crab Raver or something. Anyway, that's the Scissorwalker. In the waves. Also, the category name, a face floating on waves. Anyway, if you're wondering where this category got inspired from, it comes actually from load data, which I should probably bring that up, and the different endings you can get. There are 8 in total. 3 of them would probably make good speedrun categories, and I think this category might be a neat way of breaking into Nightcry. If you're kind of afraid of doing the whole thing, you can learn chapter by chapter, and chapter 1 only features these things and be an ending right here. You don't go on to chapter 2, however, it's all the same thing in a sense here. So at that point, you should be all good. And I hope you enjoyed it. If there's any questions, feel free to let me know, either in the chat here, or if you're watching this on YouTube, let me know there. As well, if there's any more marathon commentaries you would like me to do for either different games or even different categories, feel free to let me know as well. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.